Hey Nippers, it's me, Wild Neptune, and this is gonna be a Epic 7 video all about Selective Summons, that thing you do once you beat level 1-4. Let me actually go to the right place. So once you get past right here, you'll be able to do your Selective Summons. This video, we're going to go over each of the heroes that you can get. You can only get at maximum 1 5-star hero or artifact, but you really want to get that hero. So, going over their strengths, weaknesses, and all that other stuff. I'll give a short rating at the end of each one too. So, let's get to it. And first up is the proprietor of the Dancing Blade, Vildrid. For a long time, Vildrid has always been the go-to answer for who to pick for your Selective Summons. It's not that quite simple anymore. There have been competition for his slot and what he does. Now, what does he do? He is the best story stage farmer in the pool. So that means he'll kill weak things very quickly. Hold on, let me turn this back up here a little bit. Anyway, his S1 you see, his multiple targets. His S3 is also an AoE, right? So, very good. And also, his S2 is a passive. It will kill something. Or like do an AoE when you kill something. This is all explained to you during the prologue. I don't know why I'm just repeating it, right? Anyway, so really good story farming. Keep in mind that if you farm like stages that are more difficult, you might not actually find a lot of leverage with Vildrid, but for normal mode side story, which is probably the most common stage you will farm, even up to endgame, right? He is extremely good for that. However, like I said, there is competition now. Lena is a 3-star hero. That is pretty good at farming. Also, all new players, and all players actually, get a hero called Free Spiritaria, who is okay at farming. It's worth noting that she is fully skilled up when you get her, which is a big deal because Molagors, which is a skill up currency in the game, is time gated and fairly rare. So, and to get the most out of Vildrid, for you probably will have to skill him up. As for other things like wait, what? Why did? So let's go back to like the whatever. As for things like PvP, people will say, "Oh, you get a speed imprint." Only if you have duplicate copies of Vildrid, right? So if you're a whale and you can get up to like double S, triple S, you don't need this video. I'm going to assume you're a free-to-play or a low spender and might have none, maybe 1 or 2 of these at the most, right? And in that case, you know, there are better options, right? Like, you probably want to run a 4-star hero where you can get this imprint all the way up to like 10 or 12, right? Then use him as like the 4 speed you get here. That's not going to really do that much for you. As a main DPS, he's okay up to say Challenger, Normal Arena. Falls off after that. Masters and RTA. You might see from time to time a certain endgame users use him in high level arena, but that's not the norm. That's the exception. Other stuff he's getting though, he's pretty useful in Banshee and Asthmatic Hunt. He's good for that, but he's pretty bad for Abyss. He's not that great in Raid, stuff like that. So really, only going to be a story stage farmer with a little bit of like hunt stuff sprinkled in early PvP. Overall, I think he's still a really good hero, but the evolution of the game has changed to a point where maybe like the first controversial rating will be the first rating. Vildrid gets a B for better things out there. And we have Forehead Extraordinaire Charlotte. First off, you might see that Charlotte here is a knight. Think, oh well, she's gonna protect me. But then you notice she doesn't have a shield. She has 2 swords, so she's probably gonna do a lot of damage. I'll be honest, Charlotte is one of those heroes that I have never been impressed with. I keep hearing from people that she's good. And I've seen her in action. Like, from good players. Okay? It's like I have fought top players running like they're Charlottes. And like she doesn't do anything. So anyway, her kit is pretty decent. When she's attacked, she gets a buff, attack and defense. Not only that, which is good, because this means her S1 will actually AoE. Her S3 does a bunch of damage, spin to win move. She's really, at this point in the game, a counter pick to like, non-threaded, like, not huge burst AoE damage in RTA, right? She's not somebody I think you take all the time in PvP, but against the right team, she can definitely wreak some havoc. She's also okay in raids. From my understanding, she used to be a lot better in raid, but because of her rework, she's gotten a little bit not as good in that. Other than that, her utility is fairly limited in that matter, so she's going to be a bruiser style DPS character. Again, I don't really have a lot of experience with Charlotte, so take this rating with a grain of salt. Also, yes, it's gonna kind of give me a joke, but she gets an F for Forehead. It's that creepy dude and the doll, Baal and Zazan. Baal Zazan is an interesting case. It's just a hero that is vastly overshadowed by other heroes that do similar things. He actually has a kit that is very strong. He has on his S3 an AoE, defense break, unhealable, and decreased speed for 2 turns. On everything. These are 3 very strong debuffs in both PvP and in PvE, especially the defense break and the speed down. Those can be huge. His S2 also does okay damage, and if he kills something, he resets his S3. His S1 will poison a couple of times, hit 2 targets, also pretty good, right? Now, here are the problems with Baal. First of all, yes, he has like this cool debuffs here. However, out of every single AoE defense breaker in the game, he is, I believe, the slowest one. He also doesn't get anything like a CR boost when he does anything. So, if you want to reset his skill 3 by kill the thug with his S2, you have to wait for him to actually naturally take a turn, or you would have to boost him up in order to use this attack. And then you actually have to kill something. And at that point, do you really have to use your rest 3 again if you did all that work to use this on a, with a person who's already pretty slow, then S2, and then use it again? Like, you already won at that point. It's not real, it's just a win more strategy. Outside of PvP, he's not really the best at farming, to be honest. He's okay. He's, like, suitable, but not amazing. He actually has too many debuffs in order to run a 13, unfortunately, because Asymmetric 13, or Asymmetric Callus, I'm gonna say that, like, 20 different ways this video. There's a mechanic where if you have 3 or more debuffs on the boss, well, it cleanses all the debuffs. So he's pretty useless for that too. Because of all that though, I will have to give Ball and Suzanne, despite on paper being good, in practice, they get an F for Freak Show. Ravioli. Ancient meme, Demon Loli. Ravi has recently risen to prominence as one of the best heroes in PvP. This is because of a couple of buffs she got, like one where she will have a chance to stun with her S1. On top of that, she will heal a little bit. She also gets a stacking attack and effectiveness buff when she is attacked, stacks up to 5 times. It is very strong. She also gets some CR, so it gets hit. She goes a little bit, faster. Her S3 is also a huge AoE stun. It does a lot of damage, and targets that get stunned, though their CR will go back to 0, which is very strong. Ravi, who is unchecked, can solo certain teams in PvP. She is incredibly powerful, given the circumstance. For PvE, she is probably the best, at least one of the best, sustained farmers in the game. This is because she heals on her S1. She's gonna, not die as easily. So let's say you have a Vildrid, and your Vildrid is killing this quickly. He's yelling, Dancing Blade, every, 2 seconds. It is wonderful. But maybe the enemy's a little bit harder now. Maybe they're made out of fire, and Vildrid being made out of grass is not doing so well. However, Ravi, she's dressed to beat the heat, and, she's just gonna clean up very efficiently, but also somewhat slowly, which is the downside of that. For other content, Ravi is suitable for basically all the story mode. You can clear it with her. She's actually a core component to a lot of the harder Abyss stages in the game. Like, she is useful for 2 of the hardest ones right now, which is 102 and 105. She is especially good for those 2. Again, really good in PvP. She trivializes one of the most common Guild Wars defenses in the game. She has good enough early game reach for new players, and she has extraordinary late game potential for people who want to explore the game further than just the story mode. Because of all of this, and because of how loaded her kit is, yes, she is difficult to gear and such, but I have to give her the coveted grade of an A for her cup size. Now we have a member of the list of rangers who doesn't use a bow, instead it uses a bunch of swords. Isiah. Isiah is a very interesting hero. She has a very unique kit where Her S2 is really the key skill she has, and she can reset the skill cooldown of an ally. So let's say an ally has a very long skill cooldown, well, no problem. Just use her S2, and you can use it right away. She also has 2 defense breaks on the S1, which can proc there, and on the S3. The S3 will also unbuffable and strip all buffs, in addition to the defense break, which is extremely good for softening up key targets. She is extremely useful for some of the more difficult abyss stages you do. Honestly, before, say, stage 100, she's probably not as useful because you can just overpower stages at that point. But after that, you might need her damage, her, like, debuffs for some push. In PvP, she's seen sometimes still in offense with Tamarin as a Terra combo. She's also seen at times with Dark Corvus, who is a Moonlight 5-star, so pretty hard to get. That's like the main issue with Isiah. It's that she's very good, but she's only as good as the roster you have around her. So, as a new player, she might not be worth building for several months if you pick her. So do keep in mind, she is basically future-proof. She's always gonna find something she's useful in. It's just that you might not have the same mileage as other people do, simply based on your roster. Other than that, she's okay for things like raid. She's fine for the as a Mechanist hunt, however you say it, if a bit slow. Worth noting, she is the slowest farmer, that is character to kill the story stages in the game. That's a DPS, because she only has single target skills. Also, her AI is pretty bad, so don't count on this hitting the right target all the time. Anyway, as a hero, she's really good, but as a selector choice, she's only going to get a C for carnations, because those are flowers. It's time to go over the old school choice. Says looks like somebody who was from maybe the year like 2002, like that's when this was like really big, right? Maybe a little bit later than that. I don't remember for sure. But anyway, like his outfit, Says is a little outdated right now. For a time, he was actually the best farmer in the game. And then, like, 2 weeks later, Green Vildrid gets buffed. So Rip Says. Also for a time, he's good in PvP, because there was a broken interaction with another artifact, which got the bug fixed. So now that's useless too. So what does he do? Well, his S1 does damage. It does unhealable. It does more damage to enemy has taken. His S2 is a passive, like Vildrid's, but instead of proccing when somebody dies, somebody only has to be at half health. So it's easy to activate. However, the damage it does is a lot less. He also doesn't get things like the attack buff or the CR boost when things die. His S3 is a single target, huge burst of damage, and if it kills the target, he'll do splash damage to everything else around it, proportional to Sez's attack.
Would it be fine if I just got rid of
right.
everybody?
There's no way about it. He needs an update right now. Probably a full rework in his kit. He's one of the few heroes in the selective that has not been changed at all. He just doesn't really have any use anywhere in the game right now. So he has to get an F. Just an F. The man who never misses, except for 15% of the time. Tywin. Tywin, even though he's also a knight, he's not really going to protect your team, despite, except for that he can carry knight artifacts. He is, however, going to allow your team to do a lot more damage. He has AoE defense break, which can get to 100%, which is very nice. On top of that, he has a S2, which will give him and another target an attack and crit buff, which is also pretty good. His S1 will dispel a buff sometimes, which is nice. Also, Soul Burn is an extra turn, so you can Soul Burn this, and then you get an extra turn right away to boost your DPS to clean up the targets. So, in PvP, he's seen a lot with Basar. So you start with Basar, you strip all the buffs, then you Soul Burn Tywin, S3, you do S2 on your DPS, and you just you win the game. Outside of that, he's okay for Wyvern. Not the best front, because again, his defensive capabilities is a lot more limited, but bonuses that he does bring a defense break. Sometimes it is on a long cooldown, so keep that in mind. His boost also can be helpful on occasion, but you should think of him mostly as a character for PvP, mainly for normal arena. He's a decent hero, but knights are also, especially defensive, especially like not damage knights, like utility knights like him, are one of the worst heroes to pick for a new player. They just don't need them as much. So he also has to get an F. Now we have Street Fighter mixed with Fairy Tail, the collab you never thought was gonna come your way in Ken. Ken is an interesting case. Was one of the worst characters in the game when it launched. Then he got a rework and became really strong. And then the meta changed and he became weak again. And then he got buffed recently, and now he's okay. His major issue, first of all, he is going to be mainly another character you only use in PvP. Yes, he does have some usage in story mode, Abyss, some stages, right? Raid, yeah, sure. But he is primarily going to be a character you think of in PvP. Unlike Ravi is probably his most apt comparison into Selective. Unlike her, he lacks the self-sustain and has some more utility. So he has a defense break on his S2. He has speed down here also. He has a stun on the S3, which is a really, really cool S3, by the way. Also, when he has this little buff here, he gets some other bonuses too. It's so his kit is quite loaded. It is all single target though, so in farming he is going to be a lot slower. And again, he doesn't have the heal that Ravi does. He's kind of like Ball and Suzanne, where on paper his kit is good, but in practice, it just doesn't work out the way you want it to. He's just kind of overshadowed by other heroes in the game that do, like, not quite the same, but, like, similar enough things that he loses his place. So, because of that, I also had to give Ken an F. Now we have a 3-limbed waifu in Arimanta. Arimanta is another character who's got a series of buffs during the lifespan of the game. Unfortunately, her buffs have not made her good. She has 2 AoEs, an S3, which does some damage. It has chances to burn, a small chance to stun. It's very nice there. Also, it will also boost her CR up by 50%, which is very nice. Her S2 gives your party attack buff. Also will do some damage. So it's pretty good. S1 also has a chance to reduce the cooldown on her S3, so you can cycle it quickly. This actually makes her one of the better farmers in the selective pool. However, her farming abilities does lag behind Vildrid's, and probably even Sez and Ravi's overall if you take everything into account. Also, burns and stuns and unhealables are not that useful for a lot of PvE content that's a little bit harder. And in PvP, her a 50% chance max to stun just is not good enough, right? It's too RNG. People get upset at like 85% chances to stun characters. Imagine if all they had was a 50%. It'll be complete pandemonium. So, because of her lackluster showing, unfortunately, in all content, she gets an F for fishnets. Now we have the queen of everything, Chloe. Chloe's a character who, earlier in the game, was the subject to a lot of meme videos and images where you would do a lot of damage with her in like one attack. This does require some pretty massive setup. Chloe has a unique skill, and this time it is very unique because she's the only one who has it, called Magic Nail, which is a unique debuff which will always hit as long as it doesn't miss, right? And now, every time it takes damage, it takes 2% of its max health, and has a small stun chance if the enemy can be stunned. So S3 will do more damage with Magic Nail. And on top of that, S1 also does more damage with Magic Nail. The only real things Chloe is useful for is some memes where you want to do a lot of damage with her S3. And she's okay in Wyvern Hunt. Mainly because in Wyvern 13, which is the most farmed piece of content in the game, you need at least 2 debuffs on the boss at all times. And the fact that Magic Nail is a debuff that cannot be resisted and lasts 3 turns, that can be extremely good. Keep in mind though that if you auto the fight, that she will default to using this on the first round. So you probably have to kill the first wave before she goes, otherwise she's not gonna have this up when it matters. Unfortunately though, a lot of later Abyss bosses are immune to damage that is max HP reliant, so Magic Nail would actually not really do anything to them. Because of all of this, and mainly because there is a much better hero for Wyvern 13 in the selected hero pool, Chloe will also get the dreaded F rating. Up here we have Basar. who was voiced by Matt Mercer. That's it. That's all you have to know. No, but really, Bizarre is... I'm only going to talk about his PvP. Because he's not going to be used really anywhere besides PvP. He has a very strong skill 3, which will dispel all the enemy's buffs, and put unbuffable on them, and push them back. And his soul burn makes it so that they can't resist it. So it is pretty good. His S2 give a bunch of debuffs. His S1 will transfer some debuffs if he had any here. So he has a really good kit for controlling the enemy. Back in the day, he was used a lot as an initiator in order to soften up enemies. You know, for things like Tywin to come in and then a DPS. These days, he's used much more as a counter pick to characters like ML Crow, DN, stuff like that, in order to stop them from getting buffs more than be an actual initiator to do cleaving, right? Because of this, his usage has actually fallen off quite a bit. On top of that, a lot of counters, or if anything like counterplay, has developed around him. But for a long time, he warped the PvP meta completely. So, for PvP, even as a new player, my alt account got an early Bizarre. And just with some, like, pretty mediocre speed gear, I easily got to, like, Masters and RTA with the account. And Bizarre, like, he wasn't, like, again, not that well geared, but just good enough in order to push through to get that skin or whatever it is you want to do an RTA for. However, he's still a hero I cannot fully recommend to new players. He's a great hero if you're a person making a second account maybe, and you have knowledge of the game already. But for a new player, he's only going to get a C for cat. Can you tell this little boy is 12 or 1200? Oh, make your bets right here. This is Ludwig. Ludwig, I'll make this quick. He's really only useful for a couple of things. I understand he can be used to one-shot Banshee if you have a well-built enough one and like a bunch of other support for him to do it. That's pretty unreasonable to pick him just for that. So he's going to be a PvP finisher for your cleave team. His S3, it penetrates defense. Defense penetration on an AoE is very, very strong. He also has invisibility on his kit for himself, where he can self-sustain now. Before, it used to be he needed a full team around him. Now he doesn't. You can get by with like a support character for him and like a couple of utility characters in the team. That said, a lot of characters do AoE damage, and a lot of characters have more utility than Ludwig. He's an all or nothing type unit. Yes, when he works, he looks amazing. However, that's really all he does. Again, I said it'll be fast. Ludwig gets an F. Now, it's the hot librarian secret. Okay, I'll just get out the way right now. If you care about picking the hero that you're going to use the most for the game, pick Sigrid. She is gonna see more usage than every other hero in the pool. And this is because she is the best hero in the game for the most farmed piece of content in the game. Wyvern 13. This is because you need debuffs for Wyvern 13. Wyvern 13's fire, she's water, and she has debuffs. She has 2 on her S1, she has 2 on her S2, and you know what? Her S3, well, if the enemy has debuffs on it, it does a lot of damage. But it gets even better. Let's say you don't really have a counter for Arbiter Vildrid, despite the fact that there are like, you know, over 9,000 of them. Sigrid, well, she has Extinction, which means that she can kill Arbiter Vildrid, and he doesn't come back. So she has like some usage in PvP too, as well as the most important piece of PvE content in the game. Now, she's not going to be used anywhere outside of those those two things, but that's enough, right? Just those 2 things makes her hands down the best hero to pick in the pool. She gets an S rating for spectacles. And last but not least, we have Destina. Quick aside, out of all the heroes in the game, at least, okay, in the selected pool, I really like Destina. At least design-wise. I find her very, pleasing to look at. Anyway, Destina is in a weird place right now, where she might become good in PvP because of some certain changes that have happened. She's always like at the cusp of being a character you might want to watch out for. The issue is, as a selective pick, I don't think it's worth betting on that.
In the light's name.
She has, well, first of all, her kit is pretty strong. Her S3, it is a full party heal and cleanse and a CR boost based on the number of debuffs you get rid of, which is very powerful.
Be afraid.
Her S2 is a pretty good heal, and it has a CR boost with it too. Her S1 will also is a small heal, right? So pretty powerful there. Her downside is that her cooldown is so long. 5, like, at skill cooldown, 5 turns, and with a exclusive equipment, like 4 turns at the lowest, is a long time to wait. Especially when you consider that, her competition for the slot, Ruel, can revive on a shorter cooldown than this. Angelica, who is a water character, can tank Wyvern 13. Acades is a 4-star character also, who can cycle her heals continuously and is pretty useful in Guild Wars. Well, Destina has to find... Oh, not to mention, Angelic Montmorency, who is a 3-star hero that everybody gets for free and can cycle her heals very quickly too. Destina has to find places to shine, while everyone else can just kind of do what they want to because they aren't as hindered by the cooldowns, right? So, yes, there will be instances where Destina is going to be very good, but they're probably not going to be things that a lot of players are going to worry about. She's more of a, I had this character in my bag of characters I could bring out, more than I'm going to use her all the time as my healer. And because of this, she has to get an F right now. There are just too many other characters that can fill her role in PvE and even in a lot of PvP. Anyway, that is the video. I hope you found it informative and helpful. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, all that stuff. Leave a comment. You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/WildNeptune. Yeah, remember though, this is just my opinions. Always pick characters you like more than characters you think are good. Unless you just like characters that are good, then you'll pick those. Anyway, I'm Wild Neptune, and see you in the next video.